So yesterday, for those of you who joined me, I was talking about world content and how, hey, what are we going to be doing in Dragonflight once we're max level? What is progression going to be like? And so I shot a video, and as I was editing it, this thread comes out, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. But thankfully, a lot of what the developers has said in this thread kind of lines up with what we're talking about, but we learned some new information. So I talked about it in the video that I just put out a little bit earlier. If you haven't watched it, just play it in the background, mute it, like it anyway, because you love me so much. But seriously, let me go through what they're saying here, because I read through it, but I didn't really get to look through it too much. I just kind of cherry picked certain things. I was like, okay, cool, I'll incorporate this into the video, yay. So again, this is a response to a thread that they themselves started. Hey, what do you guys think of the professions updates? And this was presented to the WoW Community Council. Folks brought up concerns and questions, and so here's the response. And I cannot eat my croissant while I do this. Hey everyone! Sorry for taking so long to start responding to this thread. We've been super busy building out the profession systems and contents that we've been discussing. I'm going to try to slowly work through this and address some of the bigger points and questions here as I have time. Professions is actively being worked on, so your responses and feedback are super helpful, so please keep them coming. For my first response, I want to address some of the confusion around how you improve at your profession and thus craft and gather things at higher quality. You do not directly get better at a recipe via crafting it multiple times, as you do with legendary recipes in Shadowlands. That is an interesting system, but ultimately requires a huge amount of gold investment and can get repetitive. This means only players with lots of gold can easily engage with it, and has also resulted in the cost of legendaries being extremely high in some cases. Comment, this was kind of interesting, but it didn't turn out so great because, as some of you might have tried to do, this shit is really hard to level up. You need tremendous amounts of resources, and ultimately those resources were whittled down into nothing. So your efforts at either farming up all these recipes, farming up all these materials to make stuff just to level them, just to level them up, I don't think that was a very good design. Ultimately, what happened, and you might have seen this, low-level legendaries, they sold for pennies and all that. They sold for a couple of gold, despite the many thousands of gold that you put into crafting I believe 15 of them per rank. And that was crazy. It brought, in a way, it brought a lot of cheap starter legendaries into the market, so people who are broke, they can easily kind of get into it. But it was also wait, dude, it ended up just expending a lot of these resources and causing the market to starve a little bit, because you have all these resources being consumed for items that people don't even really want, and that kind of sucks. Sorry, almond stuck in the teeth and all that. So I didn't like that. And what they're doing is a big improvement on it. But let me continue. For the profession revamp, there are many different ways to improve at your profession. I'll talk more about those soon, and thus craft and gather things at higher quality. The goal is that the pursuit of profession progression is through compelling and fun activities, over spending lots of gold though. Gold, of course, will still have its place. You may still want to buy reagents or make orders for high-end crafting gear, for instance, but it should not be a gate to your ability to dive into and have lots of success with your chosen professions. It is absolutely the case that we plan on having crafted gear be able to complete with top-end gear from other sources, and in some cases even be best in slot. One of the most important goals to the work order system is enabling crafted gear to be much more relevant to the game across all activities. Just remember, in order to have that powerful gear crafted for yourself, you'll need to go out and earn special soulbound reagents to provide the crafter in order to have that item you've had your eye on crafted. So on a face value, it sounds bad. It's what, dude? Soulbound reagents are back. Oh no, this is objectively bad. How dare they do that? They're forcing us to go out and like do stuff. It depends on the speculation. It depends on the distribution of said item. It sounds like it's going to be like something that we can get across all activities: raids, Mythic Plus, PvP, outdoor content. Whether there's going to be like unique currencies per activity remains to be seen. I have a feeling though that it's going that there might be multiples. There could be multiple kinds of currencies or reagents that you need. It could be just one, and they can work that out too. It might just be a matter of, okay, so if you want the most gear, or you want the gear the fastest, and you need these reagents, you're gonna do everything. I'm gonna do like I'm gonna slam keys and raids and blah blah blah. Get that stuff from the Great Vault, yada yada yada, and that'll get me the most stuff. Meanwhile, someone who just does solo content, it'll take them longer because they're limited to fewer. They have less content to run because they don't do group stuff, but they still have a path. They could still get this currency or whatnot. And so I think that's fair. Having exclusive currency, I think, would be bad. Although it could also be a matter of, okay, there's like this universal currency or universal like reagent that you can get everywhere, but there are special reagents that are only from these sources, and then it's limited. But it'd be kind of the same thing, and I don't think that would make a lot of sense. But they're saying it again. Ian said it once. It's being said here. They want professions to be a path to best in slot pieces, which I think is great. Let's see, is it possible to speak a little about the anticipated grindiness of this? Gladly, although spoiler alert, they don't. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on the plan system for Dragonflight yet, but the intent is that this is not generally grindy when aiming to earn gear appropriate to your activity. And I think that's important. It's not when aiming to earn gear appropriate for activity. That is, if you're a normal raider, for instance, your normal raid provides enough reagents to allow you to craft a limited amount of normal raid item level gear without needing to do a bunch of other stuff. But say you wanted to craft heroic raid tier as a normal raider, that is, you want to get gear above your means, you could choose to do other activities such as Mythic Plus, PvP, or challenging outdoor activities to supplement the reagents required and get better gear sooner. So, well, I'll continue first. In general, we'd like crafted gear to feel like something you are earning at a satisfying rate alongside your other gear sources. Say you had bad luck and got no drops while raiding. You'll still be making progress towards some high-end crafted gear, and say you just can't get legs to drop for you. You may choose to have legs crafted to fill in that particular slot with a larger upgrade. For some crafted gear, you might also need to seek out a special rare drop off a certain mob in the world, a dungeon, or a raid as well. Earning crafted gear should feel like a bonus, an adventure, and a social experience. This one I'm not sure about. Let me reread this. For some crafted gear, you might also need to seek out a special rare drop off a certain mob in the world, a dungeon, or a raid. I want to tell myself, or I want to give feedback and say, instead of making these certain drops exclusive to outdoor content, dungeons, or raids, I'd rather stick with like a single kind of reagent of sorts. Thank you, by the way. I'd rather say stick with a single reagent, but just make it so, if you do one activity, you can slowly get there. You're encouraged to do more activities to get that stuff faster. I prefer that over, having a solo player be like, oh, okay, there's a plateau I can't reach or I can't get past because I don't raid. I can't get this reagent. That sucks. Because that would be the scenario where a player could be cut off. I'm totally okay with a player having to take more time in order to get to that goal. I said in that video that in theory, a Mythic Plus person can get like a max item level best in slot weapon within like a month, between the start of the expansion, the start of the season, and whatever, and then waiting that week or so to get a plus 15 thing from the vault. So it's possible. I do believe that when it comes to crafting, there should be a path. It ought to be. I'm okay with it being slower if you just run world content, if you just do a couple things, and you're not like so heavy into it. But I'm more averse to being like straight cut off of stuff. To me that's important. Okay, this is a concern. Okay, Lethalus is he says, the big question I have is in relation to small servers. To your point, some of this gear may be best in slot. Is there any consideration being given to these items being legitimately harder to obtain on small servers because not everything gets created by a character? I think the work order system sounds great, but given what I've experienced with legendaries in Shadowlands, this is a major concern for myself and many others. Hi, this is definitely a valid concern and one we're discussing how to address. I think they talked about this. I'll talk about it myself in a bit if it's not in this thread. And it's not in this thread. So, in an early interview, Aiden Hazakasas had said that there's going to be profession specializations. There's going to be a profession talent tree of sorts. And the way I am comparing this, and this is like a good setup because this person's complaining about legendaries and Shadowlands. Remember, like I had talked about, in order to level up your legendary thingamajiggers in Shadowlands, you have to use actual resources to craft this gear again, and then you level up. Woohoo. In Dragonflight, it sounds like it's going to be, you're going to do certain activities and you're going to gain these specialization points, and then you pump those points into these talent trees, and then you decide how you want to curate your max level blacksmith. Because I'm sure you can make like basic shit, but at max level, it's going to be like, okay, here's all the recipes you can make. You're going to start getting these spec points. How are you going to craft? And then there's also like the crafting gear on top of it, and we don't know how that's really going to factor in the long term. My guess is that crafting gear is going to serve as a sort of a soft barrier or a gate, whatever, that will prevent folks from being able to make like super best in slot like too quickly. But I'm going to talk more about how this all dances and interacts together, and I think it's really, really cool. But anyway, specializations, talent points, it sounds like, for an individual crafter like myself, like I'll do whatever activities there are, and then I'll get, spec points every day, every week, or whatever. And theoretically, I'd be able to spec into, okay, I want to go straight into making like the most epic fucking gear that I possibly can. And so I'm gonna pump it into like a helmet. I want to make a dope helmet. I'm gonna be the helmet guy in early Dragonflight. People are gonna come to me for this kind of shit. So it's gonna be my responsibility to pump myself full of these like specialization things and to get the profession gear that I need in order to make the best helmet or whatever. And then I'll advertise, hey dudes, dudettes, I am the helmet god. Come to me with your mats and set up a work order, send it directly to me, and I'll just I'll spam that in trade. Instead of, hey, want to make your thing, your mats, blah blah blah. Instead, I'll just be spamming it. Hey, this is my name, bitch. Know my name. I'll be posting on Realm forums or Discord channels or whatever. Come to me. Send me your work orders. I will fulfill them. Give me all your mats. My asking fee is this much gold. Have at it. And then people will come to me, and then I'll make their shit. But we gotta consider like what's actually happening here. People are coming to me with these with their soulbound materials. It's their materials, their soulbound materials, and preferably their crafting materials too, because I don't want to do that sort of work. I'm not going to get your shit, or otherwise you're going to pay a fat premium, right? But in theory, professions are becoming kind of like valor vendors, or they're becoming gear vendors of sorts, because these people will be coming to me with their materials that they've been slowly amassing, because they've been doing raids, dungeons, Mythic Plus, outdoor content, and whatnot. They've been accruing. I'm just going to call it valor. Let's just call it valor. They've been accruing this valor that is bound to them. They had to put in the work to it. I didn't put any work into it. But then they're coming to me, and I put in the work to curating my blacksmithing and specking into like the ultimate helmet. And I'm making this stuff for them. So that's the kind of exchange that's happening here. And I think that's dope. I think it's dope because I'm a big fan of interplayer commerce. I'm a big fan of the player economy and having that thrive. And I've critiqued Blizzard multiple times over the whole notion of, why are NPCs crafting all of these things? Why aren't players being like the start and end points for these things? This kind of gives that chance, and I think that's fucking cool. Someone had commented on this, and I replied, and I'll read it. Because I think it sounds like nonsense, but maybe you guys can correct me on this. This might be a more valid... Ooh, his name is Pepper Doggo. But it's this comment right here, and I'll read it. He says, the way I'm reading it, stuff like the creation catalyst is simply done through work orders, which is false. Also, instead of Blizzard actually bringing back badges from raids, you'll just get soulbound crafting currency. You put up a work order for someone to make that currency into the item that you want. It's just Blizzard being sneaky and introducing a gold sink that hits every single player in the game while framing it as immersive, as if having to buy a WoW token to pay Billy to turn your currency into a weapon for you is the peak of immersion. Blizzard is removing crafted legendaries, but replacing the revenue stream they've come to rely on with something a bit more underhanded, pretending this is what players wanted. Help me out here, because this just sounds like shitting on it without fully understanding what's going on here. And maybe this was my failure at explaining what's going on. Maybe I'm still failing to explain it now. But I don't see it that way at all. One, they're taking away, they're entirely scrapping the whole leveling system, the whole leveling scheme that Shadowlands legendaries had, because it was, like I said, it was woefully, that was a resource dump. People were just throwing away, burning tons of materials for the sake of making a cheap thing that not a lot of people wanted. Some people picked it up, but I remember I was selling those leveling base mats for like 10 gold or some shit. I was getting hustled, but they were like going for 10 gold, 100 gold. They were going for like shit. And the way I see it, that's a resource dump. That was materials leaving the market for no good reason. That really sucks. The vision in Shadowlands, which we don't know for sure yet. We don't know, there's probably shit to be talked at some point. But what we're seeing in what we're seeing in Dragonflight is that we're not wasting those materials for one thing, which is great. That feels much better. We can expect a higher abundance of overall materials and for it to be used on like actual useful things. And in this case, because crafting can be a potential path to best in slot, we can expect crafting to be a pretty big deal. But materials are going to be used for what I hope to be a good reason, to get gear within our means. Someday I'm gonna be like doing Dragonflight stuff, and it's gonna be 2 months into the raid, 2 months into the season, and I'm like, dude, I am not getting a fucking chest. I'm just not getting it, dude. Fuck it, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna have it crafted. or something like that, because throughout these 2 months, I've been getting this currency, and I've just been saving it. I haven't been really caring too much, but now that I'm like really feeling this nasty ass chest, I'm gonna throw down and I'm gonna pick something up. To me, this is peak immersion. This is the total opposite of what this comment is trying to say, because I'm going out into the world. I'm grabbing shit, assuming that I have a gatherer, or I'm going to the auction house and I'm buying up these materials, and then I'll present it to the king of chests. Oh, king of chests, please make my shit. Here is the gold. And then they'll be like, it'll be double the price. And then you'll be like, fuck you, man. I'm gonna go to the prince of chests, okay? And the prince of chests is like, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, go ahead. Just give me your shit. I'll make it. And and that sort of intercommerce is great. What this comment suggests is that, nah, man, they need a system that is antisocial. Forget players, give the power back to NPCs. And if that works, then it works. But I definitely prefer the dynamic of player commerce. That's preference. That may not be the right path. It may not be the best path, and depending on your server, and there's a legit concern behind that too. Like you might feel kind of screwed because there might be no king of helmets at all. Smaller servers will risk suffering because if they don't have a good market, then they don't have a good market. But that's kind of a supply and demand thing. If there's no one filling that gap, that means there's an opportunity for someone to step into that. If I'm complaining, I'm like, oh man, I can't find a chest at all and no one's able to make it, I'm going to take it into my own hands. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be rich. The whole idea about this being a gold sink, I think is, again, also disingenuous. I don't buy into... Maybe it's an opinion, but the way that I see it, a gold sink is when gold is spent and it leaves the market. It no longer circulates. And to me, the best definition of a gold sink is by giving gold to an NPC. Brutosaur, gold sink. Spider Mount from the Mad Merchant, whatever it's called, gold sink. Them damn frogs in Nazmir, gold sink. Repairs, transmog, gold sink. That is gold leaving the market. What we're seeing here is tantamount to crafters becoming valor vendors of sorts. And that's kind of the spirit of it. We're doing content, we're getting stuff, we're getting these things that are bound to us. Here's our shit. And then we can make stuff. Now keep in mind too that this is not the progression system either. Not for everybody. For people who just run world content, it might be the progression system. People who just solo, they're going to do their reps, they're going to get their BOEs, they're going to find a random shit in the ground and get their rep or renown up and get some rewards out of that. At the top end of that, though, there's going to be, whatever reagents that they get from world content, whatever they happen to find on the ground, or buy cheap on the auction house, or gather themselves. But then crafters are going to be what takes them to that next level. People who do PvP, Mythic Plus, raids, they already have access to that high-end gear. But what if you're missing that chest, man? What if you're looking for the king of helmets? There's a path for professions in that too. And for the no-lifers, yeah, of course the no-lifers who are doing everything, they're going to get stuff faster than everybody because they're doing, they're doing a bunch of 15s. They have their choice of best in slot gear, or their choice of max item level gear, whether it's best in slot or not, every week. And on top of that, they might get a chance at getting mythic gear from raids. And they're pushing that conquest so they can upgrade their shit like super high too. I think there's huge fucking potential with something like this. And I think that this can be a lot of fun. Like for me personally, I have I'm well off. I'm very well off with gold. I never have to pay for WoW again, or any digital content or whatever, and it's great. But when it came down to like legendaries and stuff, I'm like, I'm not gonna touch that market, dude, because it felt like too much of a gold sink, or it felt like too much of a resource dump, which is, I guess, for lack of a better term, a gold sink. I'd be wasting hella money, or I'd be wasting hella time, getting all these resources for like nothing, just so I can get these ranks and stuff. And for people who did it early, they're profiting off of it. Don't get me wrong, but I think the path to that, it was unfair for people who weren't either no-lifer gatherers, or if they were whales that could easily just, grab up all the resources and then hoard all those, and then be able to like have those max ranks. There is something to celebrate from that, because those max crafter peoples, they were able to celebrate their gains. Basically, they were able to celebrate like their prestige at being the crafter of stuff, and that's pretty awesome. But I think the path to get there, all those resource dumps, not worth it. Going back to something like tokens, where you just log in and do some stuff, that creates a different sort of divide, because then it compels people, it challenges crafters to be like, you need to log in every day so you can get the specialization points. And so I think there should be a conversation on that front, that where we want to have an appropriate sort of like, a relatively appropriate scheme that doesn't let that keeps folks on a relatively even playing field. So like, for example, if there are like 10 specialization, I'm throwing out shitty stupid numbers, if there are like 10 specialization points that you can get throughout the week, how should that be doled out? Or no, let's go with 7. If there are 7 points that you can get throughout a week, how should that be passed out? Should it be, you got to do a daily kind of thing every day in order to get a specialization point each day, which necessitates having to log in every day or else? Should it be a weekly thing? Hey, you want these 7 points? Log in once a week. Hard grind this thing, these activities that you need to do, and then that's how you get that. Should it be like a seasonal currency, where it's like, okay, you get 7 a week, but then next week you can get up to 14 if you're cashing up. You just gotta you just still need to put in the work. Should it be like an emissary sort of thing, where you can fall behind, but you have 3 days instead of 7 days? There are a lot of ways you can do it. But I find that way better than Shadowlands stuff, because you could just gather it yourself. But boy, it's a lot to gather. You needed thousands of that stuff. And people can, eventually get there. And there was no time gating. Whoop-de-doo. Again, though, problem was that it was a big resource hog, and it affected the server economy, because you had, hey, I need ore. Nah, there's no ore. Where's all the ore? I'm leveling. It's not going. It's resources that aren't going into like anything useful. That just sucks. So that's my take on it so far. I know. I'm pretty much kind of just repeating what I had said in that video, but I think it's extremely important that people are aware of this and try to participate in this sort of conversation, because this is huge. I think this, this is still fresh news, but I just don't want this to fly under the radar. I think it's like hella big. It's a big deal, and everyone can participate in it. It's an opportunity for a lot of folks to make money, especially with the way that this scheme is working out. And I'm sure there are flaws in it. And I'd love to hear more about what you guys think are potential problems with it, so we can shout to the void and be like, hey, I think this is a legit concern, dudes. Please do something about it. Before we get like a Shadowlands kind of situation where we have to wait for fixes over like months and months and months. We definitely have world PvP in mind with our crafting plans, both with interesting recipes and with regards to gathering reagents, but nothing we're ready to talk about in detail yet. One thing I want to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet is the concept of recrafting. It's still in the works, so it's likely to change some, but the basic idea is as follows. Recrafting will allow you to take any piece of Dragonflight crafted gear and bring it back to the crafting screen as a crafter. You can then spend a special reagent plus a small subset of the original reagents for the recipe to recraft the item. During this process, you can completely change out optional reagents if you want. The new quality of the item will be determined based on the new setup of reagents plus your current skill. This means you can have an item crafted at a low quality and then later recraft it when you are a higher skill to a higher quality. Holy shit. For non-crafters, we're planning to support recrafting your orders as well. In this case, you can send your item to get recrafted to have its optional reagents changed out or to potentially have its quality increased. All of this should help out players feel comfortable having a high-end item crafted early when it might not be at max quality, securing the knowledge that they can always have it recrafted better later. Holy shit. That's nuts! What the shit? So me, hey man, I'm gonna take my gear to the shop. You know, I got a dude who's gonna take care of it. He told me to drop it off at the work order place, and then he'd turn it around in a couple of hours. He said he'd be on and he would take care of it. So so I drop my gear off. I need a loaner at the time, or I'll log off or something. And I'll just wait for the dude to work on my shit and make it better. And if it takes too long, then I'll cancel the work order, probably get my gear back, hopefully not lose anything out of it. And that's it. But this is cool. So this has a kind of Warlords vibe, where potentially I'm going to be able to take my gear that I make early in the expansion and throughout the expansion, just upgrade it. Right? As soon as my skill gets high enough, or someone else's skill gets high enough, like the king of chests, the king of helmets, whatever. Hey, dude, I'm back. Welcome back, dude. Welcome back to 10.2. Give me your shit. They don't say if it works on gear that's been bopped. I mean, it pretty much implies that very heavily here. Because then why would I recraft stuff? Then I'll just make a new thing every time, right? Yeah, even though it doesn't like straight up spell out for you, I don't think that's necessary. It seems pretty clear. You can put in your bind on pickup items into this sort of thing. That's cool. That's very cool. Or it's like, mid patch or whatever. Hey, I have a thing. I want to swap out my shit. I mean, there's a bit of work there. Because I'll need to like have someone else do it for me, or if I could do it myself, hey, great. You spend a special reagent plus a small subset to recraft it. So it looks like this is the cost of just having the access to do the thing. From there, I'm not sure if there's going to be like, hey, if you want to change out the reagents, is there an additional sort of thing? The new quality of the item will be determined based on the new setup of reagents plus your current skill. This means you can have an item crafted at low quality, then later recraft it when you're higher skill. Okay. Yeah, so Plunks, this is where it basically reassures you. For non-crafters, as in clients, we're planning to support recrafting orders as well. In this case, you can send your item to get recrafted, to have its optional reagents changed out, or to potentially have its quality increased. So one thing that I think maybe I didn't make clear, or this is my understanding of it, and I think that I'm right, is that if you were to buy, if you were to start a work order, if I as the client started a work order for a helmet, and then someone fulfilled that helmet, when I get it, it's bind on pickup. It is mine. I can't do a work order and then sell it to someone else. It's mine. It's bound. But what I'll be able to do is take this item and resubmit it as a work order. Hey, I need a recraft. I want this, this, and this. And hopefully someone will do it for me. Someone with the skill and all that stuff. And that's it. I'm curious if they'll still keep the restriction of only one craft. Yeah, that's one thing I'm very curious about. But I'm also thinking to myself, why not have I'm part of me's thinking that they don't need to have that restriction. And here's why. You need that soulbound reagent. That in itself is a restriction. So, Season 2 of Dragonflight, you will not be able to just walk right in and immediately buy best in slot stuff. The way I'm seeing it, when Season 2 starts, there's going to be a new kind of, everyone's kind of I don't know, something about their specialization points. Like, they won't be able to just simply get right into it right away and immediately create mythic level stuff. It's going to be like, okay, here's specialization 10.0, and then there's specialization point 10.0, and then specialization point 10.1, or something like that. Where in order to create like the item levels in order to create certain gear, you'll do these specialization things, but in order to get to like this new level, you need like a new sort of thing. So I'm totally word salading now, but I have a feeling that they don't need to have those restrictions, because everyone's going to be like starting at the same. Actually, no, never mind the whole idea of the crafting side of things. For clients, for people who are just trying to get stuff, they're going to get like a new valor of sorts. And that new valor is going to be what's needed to make those higher level recipes anyway. And no matter what, as far as I know, there's not going to be like account-wide valor or nothing like that. Folks are going to have to do activities, do whatever stuff in order to get the points that they need, and then they can spend it, or they can use it to buy these things. That's the way I'm seeing it. So the thing that they're getting away with having the soulbound, that's what the whole point of the materials being soulbound is for. That's the control. That's the time gating. That's going to kind of pace the flow of how quickly people are going to gear up. But because of that, there doesn't need to be restrictions. It's you're limited. You're simply limited by how long it's going to take you to get all of these things. I do have a feeling that it's going to take quite a while if you want to go straight for like mythic gear. I have a feeling that it's going to have a certain flow to it, that you'll be able to fairly quickly create for yourself a raid finder level set. But then from that, you're going to start working your way up. You're going to start working your way towards upgrading the raid finder item level set into something higher. Now, I'm only talking about people that don't do the big three. I'm sure that people that do participate in the big three are going to be like, I'm not going to make a full fucking set. Are you stupid? I'm only going to make this, this, and this because I want my tier set bonus and, that sort of thing. But also, they were talking about, I don't think it's been mentioned here yet, they did talk about the idea of using professions as a creation catalyst as well. By doing certain things, they'll be able to turn like this crafted gear or turn something whether it's crafted gear or just gear that's obtained from other content, turn that stuff into tier stuff. And that'd be kind of cool. Just tuned in, tokens for crafting, something like that. Tokens for crafting that are not on the crafter to obtain, but from the player, from the individual player. Now, a crafter can just be a career crafter and nothing else. They can just, they can go around the world, get the reagents and stuff, and then just they can make gear that can be sold on the auction house. That's my prediction. I have a feeling that they'll be able to sell stuff, but that's going to be from one character at a time, based on all the soulbound reagents or valor or whatever that they are obtaining. So the really cool thing about work orders is that you no longer have to be a high-end raider to be a high-end crafter, or at least I hope that's true. It is true, because you're going to be using their materials. The only thing that's holding that person back is going to be what is their skill level, and the profession gear. So that's going to be one of the things that we don't quite know yet. Is that profession gear going to be easily obtainable? It would really suck if it's like, oh yeah, if you want to make this mythic gear, you need to have a certain whatever the profession stats are, but you can only get this apron from defeating the last boss of whatever on Mythic. That'd be stupid. That would totally throw a wrench into the whole idea of the crafting scheme. So I don't think that's true. If it just takes time to make it, okay, fine. But I think that'd be cool. This bit seems really neat. I like that.